The first sound everyone remembers isn't the laughter, it's the silence right before it, the kind that presses against your chest and dares you to breathe wrong. She's on the cold floor with a chain tugging at her collar, eyes wide, hands shaking, and the crowd is counting down like it's a game show. Nobody notices the way she steadies her breathing, the tiny pause where fear gives way to something harder, sharper. They think this is the end of her dignity. They don't know it's the beginning of their reckoning. She grew up invisible, the kind of girl teachers forgot to mark present and classmates learned to ignore unless they needed someone to humiliate. Money was always short, meals were smaller than promised, and dreams were something you kept folded and hidden so nobody could tear them apart. School hallways were arenas long before she ever stepped into a ring, places where names cut deeper than fists and rumors traveled faster than truth. The bullies learned early that she wouldn't fight back. Silence, to them, looked like weakness. They never asked why she flinched at loud noises or why her hands were always wrapped in old bandages she claimed were for chores. They didn't know about the nights. Those nights were underground, basements lit by flickering bulbs, crowds packed shoulder to shoulder, money changing hands in whispers. That's where she learned how pain could be measured, controlled, and returned with interest. Boxing saved her life before it ever made her strong. Each punch taught her boundaries, each bruise taught her patience. She fought under a borrowed name, hid the cash in shoeboxes, and came home before dawn to sleep like nothing extraordinary had happened. Strength, she learned, didn't need witnesses. It only needed purpose. At school, the bullies grew bolder. They filmed their cruelty, turned humiliation into entertainment. The day they dragged her into the center of the hallway, they thought they were writing her final chapter. The chain wasn't tight enough to choke, just tight enough to degrade. The command to bark was met with laughter, phones raised, countdowns shouted. Her heart hammered, but not with panic, recognition. The rhythm was the same as before a bell rang in the ring. She lowered her gaze, not in surrender, but in focus. Survival had taught her when to wait. She complied just enough to keep them close. Close enough to smell the cheap cologne and adrenaline. Close enough to see the cracks in their confidence. When the countdown hit 0, one of them yanked the chain harder, expecting a breakdown. What he got was a stillness that made the air change. She rose slowly, eyes steady, voice calm. No shouting, no threats, just a promise carried in her posture. The crowd's laughter wavered, unsure why the joke suddenly felt dangerous. The first move was defensive. She slipped the pull, stepped inside the reach, and the chain went slack. Muscle memory took over. A shove became a pivot. A grab became an opening. She didn't throw wild punches. She placed them, clean, controlled. The hallway echoed with gasps as confidence collapsed into confusion. Phones dropped. Someone screamed. The bullies backed away, stumbling over their own shock, realizing too late that the girl they'd practiced humiliating had been practicing something else entirely. Security arrived to chaos, but the truth had already spread. Videos flipped from mockery to disbelief. Teachers asked questions they should have asked years ago. Administrators whispered about liability. And she stood there, hands trembling now, not from fear, but from the release of it. She didn't smile. Victory wasn't loud. It was quiet, like finally exhaling after holding your breath too long. Just when everyone thinks the story is over, when the bullies are suspended. Apologies are staged, and sympathy pours in, the real hook tightens. Because power doesn't like being exposed, and the underground doesn't forgive secrets easily. That night, a message waits for her on a cracked phone, a fight scheduled, stakes doubled, audience guaranteed. Her name, her real one, typed out in full. Someone from the school has been watching. Someone wants to cash in. She shows up anyway. The basement is louder than ever, the crowd hungry for spectacle. This time, there's no mask, no borrowed name. The announcer hesitates, then says it. Gasps ripple. The story has traveled faster than she has. They expect a show fueled by rage. What they get is discipline. She fights like someone who has nothing left to prove and everything to protect. Each round is a lesson. Control over chaos, courage without cruelty. When the final bell rings, the crowd erupts, but she doesn't raise her arms. She looks straight at the camera and says one thing. No one gets to decide who I am. The fallout is messy. Offers come in. Threats follow. But so do opportunities. Real gyms, real coaches, scholarships whispered by people who finally see her worth. At school, the hallways feel different. Not safer overnight, but changed. Eyes lower when she passes, not in fear, but respect. A few students thank her quietly. One girl asks how to be brave. She answers honestly. You don't wait for fear to leave. You move with it. In the end, the story isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your name when the world tries to rename you. It's about understanding that strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the decision to transform it. The girl who was forced to crawl stands tall, not because she proved she could hurt others, but because she proved she could rise without becoming what hurt her. And for everyone watching, counting down to 0, the message lands hard and clear. Never mistake silence for weakness. You never know who's learning how to fight back.